Okay, want to welcome everybody tonight for another episode here of the Ohio Wesleyan Baseball alumni and a bunch of old guys sitting around talking baseball. Tonight, Scott, we really got the old guys with us. We are happy to have with us tonight is Mark Shipps, and Mark is a 1970 Ohio Wesleyan graduate, and Jim Mendenhall, who is a 1922 Ohio Wesleyan, a 1973 Ohio Wesleyan graduate. And just to warn everybody here, these two guys are not novices. They have been known as the voice of the Bishop Lacrosse, Jimmy and Chippy show, and have been everything. So guys, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here. We're Jimmy and I are brothers from a separate mother, so, you know. Is that right, Jimmy? Oh.
Jimmy,
I love you, baby.
Jimmy, just so you know, any mention of anything related to the Chicago Bears or Chicago teams, we're going to mute you.
Well, you don't like winners, huh?
No, we're Browns fans here. Just kidding. All right, we'll get started here. Mark, you and Jimmy both have deep Ohio Wesleyan ties. So I'm going to ask you if you could tell the guys and people listening tonight, tell us a little bit about how your family got connected to Ohio Wesleyan and how you've been so connected to it.
You got about 2 hours, Raj?
Well, you got to do it fairly in 5 minutes.
It started in Delaware, obviously, with both of my grandparents. My one grandfather, Rusty Shipps, graduated from Wesleyan in 1913. So my family is a 4-generation, working on 5, Ohio Wesleyan family. He graduated from Wesleyan, left, and then came back to work at Ohio Wesleyan and spent 40 plus years working in alumni relations and fundraising. Started a number of the programs that still survive today at Wesleyan. My other grandfather, also in Delaware, he taught history for 40 years. In fact, Henry Clyde Hubbard wrote Ohio Wesleyan's first 100 years. Rock Jones uses that a lot in a lot of his discussions about the birth of Ohio Wesleyan and the values of Ohio Wesleyan. And so my parents lived across one of the courts in Delaware from each other, and they were high school sweethearts and got married, and that's the second generation. And there's been about 30 members of my family who came to Ohio Wesleyan. My dad was very much involved with Wesleyan as a trustee, and as well as some other family members who've been involved. So it's a pretty close relationship that we've had for a long time. I obviously went there, met my wife there. Our kids went there. In fact, Roger was, maybe he was a little bit instrumental in doing this. Our daughter is in the Athletic Hall of Fame for field hockey. So, and now we're working on the next generation.
Hey, Jimmy, give us a little background.
Well, Raj, I've got about a 70-year relationship with Ohio Wesleyan. My mother and father both worked and met at Ohio Wesleyan back in the 40s. And my father worked for over 33 years at the university. He was the head baker back when Ohio Wesleyan had Manette Hall, which was right next to Austin before it was shut down. So my father was the head baker under, I think if I'm not mistaken, 3 presidents. And so all of the baked goods that came back during the days we were all in school were provided by my dad. As you know, I'm a townie. I literally walked across the street after graduating from Hayes and actually received a wrestling scholarship to go to Bowling Green, and came home with a paper and told my dad, "Hey, Dad, guess what? I'm going to Bowling Green." And my dad goes, "Oh, hell no, you're not. You're going across the street." And I was a little bit sad because I wanted to get away from Delaware, but I have to say it was the best thing I ever did, and came in freshman year in 1969, and tried to play a little bit of football and that didn't work out because I was incredibly slow, and uh, and couldn't jump much, couldn't run, but I had some skills. Still trying to work on those. But really, I wrestled freshman year, but like many of the guys, I discovered Whitey's Nocturnal Bookstore and Butsy's and Buns, and started did
The jug, Jimmy.
in the jug and wrestled on the Phi Delt intramural team, and have to say I won a championship twice. Beat a kid, a Delt, Charlie Kurtz. But have really enjoyed my time and chance, Roger, to get back and become a part of the staff at Wesleyan and work with a lot of the young kids. So that's my story.
Okay. Tom Ruggles is watching us tonight. He wants to make sure I told you hello there, Mark.
How you doing, Tom?
Mark, tell us a little bit about your time at Ohio Wesleyan as a student.
Well, I have to tell you a story about Jimmy first. He
Oh Lord.
he definitely used to come across the road. Now, I think I remember him as a high school senior coming over to the Fidel house, and if he, for some reason, he was at all of our parties, and I think he was still in high school. Ultimately, he came and joined the fraternity house, but he found some things to do at Ohio Wesleyan even before he got admitted. So, right, Jim?
He's still doing them.
Well, I was there for the academic experience, gentlemen.
Me too.
I'm glad I'm not near you guys. I need booze. I'm sorry. Well, Jimmy and Mark, you guys were there at an interesting time in Ohio Wesleyan history. You were there in the late 60s, early 70s. It was a tough time in the country. We're going through Vietnam War, a lot of unrest on campus, a lot of different things going on. Describe what campus was like during that time.
Well, I can tell you the times back when I was on campus, 68, 69, as you just mentioned, Roger, there was a lot of campus unrest. Vietnam War, I remember there were a number of us that took over the ROTC building, and it's very eerily similar to the times that we're living in right now with a lot of social unrest. The university actually shut down for a while, and it was a really tough time being a student, but we had great leadership, and I will say this. I know there are some folks that might disagree, but I was a Tom Winslow fan. I remember when a bunch of us did go into the ROTC building. Winslow comes down in his pajamas and with those big bushy eyebrows, and was trying to talk everybody off the roof. But it was
Tom was our president at the time, correct?
Yes.
That's right. Tom
A
Winslow.
lot of young
was
guys
the
that don't know that. He was
He's a
the president.
graduate and also in the Football Hall of Fame, Wesleyan Football
Yes,
Hall.
yes,
Yep.
and quite a basketball player too, from what I understand. But anyway, Mark, I think you probably could agree. It was a very difficult time as you tried to focus on your studies with all of the social unrest that was going on.
Yeah, Jimmy and I work with a lot of students now in the Career Connection office at Wesleyan, and it's deja vu all over again for us, really, to go through what we're going through right now. And when we talk to them about school shutting down and all the challenges that we face, I mean, there was a lot of unrest on campus, and of course, it was during Kent State, right after Kent State, that the Wesleyan shut down. I'll never forget this. I was a dorm counselor my senior year, and that was the first year they had the draft lottery. And I'll never forget sitting around. Actually, I think I left and went to the Fidel house, and all of us sitting down in the lower level around the TV. I mean, essentially watching your future being decided right in front of you. I was unlucky enough to get a low number. Some guys got high numbers, and that was it. But there were some people on campus who got low numbers who never came back from Vietnam. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. I ended up going in the Coast Guard, but it was a very strange time. And we tried talk to the students today about it to explain to them that, they weren't the first ones to go through strange times like there are today.
Yeah. So Mark, let's start with you. Tell us, once you graduated from Ohio Wesleyan, first of all, what was your degree? And then tell us about your professional life.
Okay. I had a zoology degree with a minor in chemistry. I was a pre-med major all the way through, and then decided I didn't want to go through 6 more years of school. So I got in the Coast Guard. Luckily enough, was able to get in a Coast Guard officer candidate school, and really had a wonderful career in the Coast Guard. 4 years active and 8 years as a reserve total. But I got an opportunity. My second, this is tough duty. I got assigned to Woods Hole, Massachusetts, as the marine pollution officer there, and ended up getting involved in cleaning up oil spills, and got out of the Coast Guard and found an opportunity in that field, and was able to parlay that ultimately into starting the first of 3 businesses that I started. All 3 of them ultimately got sold. My first one to my partners, and then the second 2, and the last one ultimately was pretty sophisticated environmental services company that we started in the basement of my house in 2002, and grew it to, we had 500 employees and did about $100 million of the business. And it was very, very successful, and taking methane gas off of landfills and producing electrical power. So I had a great career in business, and successful enough to be able to not retire, but kind of pivot off of that. Let my partners take over the business. And I actually came back to Wesleyan for 6 years, Roger, and you and I spent a good 6 years together trying to rebuild the athletic facilities at Wesleyan.
Yep.
And then, of course, have been volunteering since that. We've been retired for 4 years, and that allowed us to actually move back down to Central Ohio, and we live in the north side of Dublin, and makes it easy to go to Wesleyan, and I've got our family all around us here. So it's been a terrific time in our life.
That's great. I remember that conversation you and I had up around Mansfield.
Absolutely.
When they first reached out to you about coming back to Ohio Wesleyan. So,
well, Roger, what I remember is, as a trustee, I was lucky enough to be a trustee at Wesleyan for a while. Late in that time, when you shared with me your plan for the future of Ohio Wesleyan athletics, and we really hadn't invested any money in the facilities for years. And you put that plan together, and ultimately we were able to get together first as a trustee, and then when I joined Wesleyan to work for them, and we raised a lot of money and did a lot of good things, Raj, and it was your plan that made it happen.
It took great partners to get it done, and you were definitely a great partner. So, Jimmy, tell us a little bit about you after you graduated from Wesleyan. What was your degree, and what did you do?
Well, real quickly before I do that, just to tag on to what Shippy said, 1969, I also remember sitting in the basement of Welch Hall, my freshman hall, watching that drum being moved around, and they were pulling out ping pong balls with numbers on. And fortunately or unfortunately, I got number 11, which was a low number, which meant I would have had to gone to the service to Vietnam. But I had a deferment for 4 years. And then they abolished the draft in 1973, graduation year. So I missed going to the service. But I also was a pre-med major. I wanted to be a doctor. But quantitative analysis, Chem 50, made me change that direction pretty quickly. And I ended up with a major in botany bacteriology. And I went on to have a career, 35 plus year career in pharmaceutical and biotech, Roger. Starting out with my first job in Cleveland, living in Berea in 1974. And through the years, I worked my way up through successive promotions in sales and marketing, and culminated in 2009 with me, actually 2000, I was in London, England with Johnson & Johnson Healthcare, running our company's oncology business over there. Came back, moved to Chicago, was there for 6 years, and then retired actually in 2009, 2010. And if you remember, then I was talked into coming back home by somebody that's on this call, Mr. Shipps, to come back to work for our alma mater. And I worked for 6 years in Maui as a major gift officer. And then my last year or two, I was Associate Director of Alumni Relations, retired from Wesleyan. And my last 3 years was at the Columbus Zoo as a senior major gift officer, and finally decided last October to shut it down and really focus on grandkids and family. And I still do quite a bit of work with Wesleyan, working with the young kids. I've worked with Shippy and Career Connections, and do stuff with athletics. So right now I'm enjoying life at almost 70 years of age.
Okay, so who's retired more, you or Mark?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Okay.
I think he's done official retirements more than I have, Roger.
I think you're right. All right, so
I've had better parties, Roger.
well, I don't know. Mark's probably got some pretty good ones. So, all right. So I'm going to give you both a minute and a half. Tell us about your families, your immediate families here. Mark?
Well, all right, I'll do it. Okay, so I said both son and daughter graduated from Wesleyan. Son Dave graduated in '99. He was quite a good lacrosse player in high school, but hurt his back. Luckily enough, he came to Wesleyan, and Leland Rogers took a liking to him, and he was sort of the team manager for them. So he got to go all on the road trips and really got his fix of lacrosse in college, not having to play. He married a girl that he met in the, can't remember which class it was, but one of the science classes. And they live about 100 yards from us, which is terrific. They have two boys, a 16-year-old who's quite a baseball player. He claims he's throwing in the low 80s. I think it's probably the high 70s, but he's throwing a hell of a lot harder than I can catch, and everything he throws moves. So I don't catch him anymore because I can't move that fast. My daughter, she graduated in 2001. Quite a field hockey player, 4-year letter person at Wesleyan. Actually played in the national senior all-star game, and ultimately, I think through some of Rogers' help, probably got her into the Hall of Fame. She was a hell of a goalie. She holds the school record for saves forever and ever and ever. Now that's not always a good thing when a goalie has to make that many saves. So didn't speak well for the defense. But she's a great kid, and she got 2 children, a 7 and a 5-year-old, and her husband is the only one who did not go to Wesleyan. So we accept him. It's okay.
And your wife?
Well, my wife, Virginia, who I met at Wesleyan, she taught for a number of years and in various different places. As she followed me around in all my business ventures, she in fact supported the family while I was starting some businesses, so that was important. And she's been retired now from teaching for about 10 years, and she also does some work in career services. So she's also I'm not sure she's too excited about all this, but she's the treasurer of the Delta Gamma House. So how do you like that?
Yep. My daughter has worked with her.
That's right, your daughter. That's right.
Quite a bit. Jimmy, tell us about yours.
Well, I too met my wife at Ohio Wesleyan. My wife, Gail, is in the class of 76, spent 2 years there before transferring to Wichita State, where her father was a trustee, and she got her dental hygiene degree there. In addition to my wife in the class of 76, she had 2 other sisters, Judy, who was in my class, 73, and Gwen, 1971, Gwen Winters, the Winter sisters. All three were Tridelts. So Gail and I, we met and were married in 1986. We have a daughter, Taylor, who is 32, and she's blessed us with three really wonderful and beautiful grandkids. I'm a poppy now. And Makai is 8, and Malaysia is 5, and Mahala will be 2. One of my biggest joys, Roger and guys, that I've had last year, I got a chance to coach my grandson in flag football, and those of you guys who've had a chance to do that, trying to coach a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds in flag football, it was a hoot, but it was a real joy to be able to do that. And I was Coach Poppy, defensive coordinator, and we started out pretty well. We were 4-1 and ended up losing the championship to a team that had a couple of older, bigger kids. But being a grandfather, being a father, and being a husband is the joys right now that I find in my life.
Yep. Well, Scott here was part of a pretty special team at Ohio Wesleyan because it was the first team that ever won a national championship. Can you guys tell me a little bit about your thoughts and recollection of that '88 season? Not you, Scott.
Unbelievable. You want Scott to give you a recollection?
No, we know his.
I know.
We want to know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah.
Living in Connecticut, I think, or wherever we were at that point, we didn't get to see many games, but we did get to see a couple. And I guess, watching Lee Rollinson, and I mean, all you guys came in and somehow came together. What did Lee grow from 6'6" to 6'10" while he was at Wesleyan? And
Yes,
he really
sir.
wasn't that good as a freshman, and he just blossomed like a lot of you guys. And Scott, to watch you, I mean, yeah, you always had another speed. I mean, you had another, you could always go one further gear, and you did it effortlessly. And it was like poetry in basketball. It really was. It was unbelievable to watch that. And then we were able to only catch the championship game on video, but that was pretty special. And then watch Coach Mahaffey pound his fist on the floor and get all red in the face. And that was also an interesting part of it.
Jimmy?
Yeah, being a townie and growing up in Delaware, I had a chance to watch a number of teams, and my father would take my brother Bub and I down to Edwards to watch the games, and I had a chance to watch Barry Clemens and Larry Washburn and a number of guys, Jackie Brown, who was there in 74, 75, 76, if I'm not mistaken. But I have to say, and I'm not saying this just to blow smoke at Scott, but one of the most dynamic players that I ever got a chance to see. And I remember that '88 season. And the big joy for me that was my dad's joy, was to go down and watch that '88 team play. And then we'd end up down at West End Grill to celebrate those wins. But Scott, getting a chance to watch you, and I remember Lee Rollinson, those guys, it was a team chemistry, and how you guys really played well together. You respected each other. It was just a miraculous time and a miraculous season to watch. And I was just so happy to be able to watch it. I was so proud that Ohio Wesleyan was national champs, and that's something I think, Scott, I'll have to tell you, but that's something, man, you guys have and will carry as comrades forever. What a great season.
And I'll elaborate on that. As far as the town of Delaware, the support that we had making that run through the regionals was unbelievable. People lined up around Branch Rickey, and we'd be walking downtown, and they're like, "Hey, Scott, good luck Saturday. We'll be there." And I'm like, how many people are going to be there? It's like the whole town really supported us. And I've done, I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of things after Ohio Wesleyan. And obviously, as you guys know, I played with Michael Jordan and some other things, but people always interview me and say, you know, what's your biggest accomplishment? And by far, it was winning a national championship at Ohio Wesleyan. I've got, you know, Southern League rings from the Birmingham Barons, and it doesn't compare to the things that we did at Ohio Wesleyan, the friendships, the things that you, like you said, the chemistry. It was weird because it all came together. We came in as freshmen, 6 of us. Dave Grimm was the 6th, but you know, 4 of those guys had to wait because we were actually loaded. I mean, when I came in my freshman year, we had Chip Jarrett, Mark Oberholzer, Dave Hollenball. So a lot of those guys had to be patient and just get better. And you know, they played JV, and then my senior year, it just kind of clicked. And obviously, you guys know we beat Ohio University, which really started what we believed in ourselves as far as the chemistry, and everybody had their role. You know, Mike Smith had his role as a point guard, Truskowski, Casey Lee, and then Lee. You know, if they stopped the inside, then I would take the outside. If they stopped the outside, we would take it into the inside. So a lot of people don't realize that, and this is my personal opinion, that was probably one of the best Division III basketball teams in the history. And I think the margin of victory in the national championship of 22 points is, yeah, I believe still a record. That just showed, you know, the chemistry and the team that we had, that it came through that 1988 season.
OU game has to be second on your list, Scott, I would think, right?
It was, because I've mentioned in calls before, I was going to go there. That's where I really wanted to go, was Ohio University. I went to camp there. I talked to coaches. Everything was set for me to go to Ohio University, and kind of waited a little bit. And, you know, they called and said they didn't have a scholarship for me. So the next thing you know, I'll tell the story. I'm visiting Ohio Wesleyan, and Coach Ingles and Coach Mahaffey said, go down to the laundry room. We got somebody down there that you want to meet. And oddly enough, it was Fody Frinsos down there doing laundry, washing uniforms. So it was funny. You know, the God, I call him the godfather of Ohio Wesleyan. So he showed me around, and I like to tell this story, and I would never forget it. He said, Scott, you come to Ohio Wesleyan, you'll be an All-American. And I looked at Fody, and I was like, Fody, I'm just trying to get in. I'm just trying to get into school, you know. I just want to get into Ohio Wesleyan. But it was a great experience, and that's how it all started, down in the laundry room, doing laundry. And a year later, that was my work study job. I did laundry, doing the bags and doing all the athletic laundry. So it was kind of an ironic story that, you know, coaches took me down there to meet Fody, and the next year I'm down there, you know, studying and doing laundry, and I guess the rest is, as I say, is history.
Well, Scott, that's a great kind of a segue into the main topic of what we're here for tonight. Okay, is, you know, there's an example of Fody giving back, paying back. You know, Fody had a great experience, 3-sport athlete. You know, he met his wife through Ohio Wesleyan. Had several kids that have come and gone to Ohio Wesleyan. All the people that you know, that you've played with, have been successful. Jim and Mark have been around a lot of people, been successful. We have a lot of kids, men and women, who come through Ohio Wesleyan, who get a degree and end up doing something later on in their career that they really didn't study for at Ohio Wesleyan. I think these guys are good examples that, you know, they went in as pre-med, and, you know, and Jimmy's case, and he ends up, you know, in pharmaceutical, medical background. He ends up in fundraising. Mark's background with environmental sciences. Scott, your background. You know, I think we need to be able to help our young people network and connect. And I think that's what Jimmy and Mark have been doing, and giving back, because they've been involved for a number of years now. But for the three of you, I'll throw the question out there. Give me some advice. First of all, what do you think about a student athlete as a potential employee? What strengths or weaknesses do they bring? And then what's your advice for them moving forward either into coming out of school looking for a job, or maybe they have a job and in this market they got to go a different route and they need to look around. How do they connect? Who do they reach out to? What are the steps they can take? So whoever wants to go first, jump into it.
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, first of all, I've used to hire a number of Ohio Wesleyan scholar athletes, not just athletes, but scholars. And if I had a choice, if I had two equal candidates for a position and I had an athlete, man or women, either one, it would be hard for the non-athlete to get the job. Because of everything that you learn in athletics. You learn about yourself, you learn about competition, you learn about one-on-one. I mean, what it's like to go one-on-one, what it's like to be part of a team, what it's like to work your butt off to achieve a goal. And I to this day, I'll maintain, not that you can't have that as a non-athlete, but to be a successful college athlete, you have to have gone through all that in high school to get to that level. And so I would definitely, I would certainly err on the side of the athlete whenever I could do that. And also I would say from the work that we've done, both my wife and I, and of course Jimmy probably would second this, at Wesleyan, employers will look at graduates from various different colleges, and it just story after story after story where they'll say, if you played sports, especially at Ohio Wesleyan, you got an edge up on the rest of the crowd. So it's not only the athletes, it's not only everything they go through, but the Ohio Wesleyan education, the liberal arts education, which today it's under some, I think, some criticism because of parents, I think, wanting their kids to go in a specific direction and just get a technical education or an engineering education. That liberal arts, you're looking at three guys here who ultimately didn't go where they thought they were going to go. We ended up in totally different fields, maybe related, but what Ohio Wesleyan gave us was that solid ground, our ability to think, our ability to be able to rationalize, to be able to get into tough situations and figure our way through it. So. You know, both Jimmy and I do a lot of work in the Ohio Wesleyan network, and all those, I think all the strengths of the university, they just get magnified when you start working with people who are out there working wherever they may be, you know, for-profit, non-for-profit. It just constantly reinforces the value of I think athletes to begin with, but the Ohio Wesleyan graduates, maybe even more importantly.
You know, Roger, Ted, Mark, this kind of underlines what we're saying. So tonight I'm watching NBC News, and they're talking about some of the troubles that the airlines are in and how they will need an additional $25 billion bailout to get them through the tough times that's going on. And as I'm sitting there watching the news, all of a sudden I see the correspondent interview someone. I look at the guy and I go, oh my God, it was Nick Callio.
Oh, wow.
Nick's a trustee, and he's the CEO of Airlines for America. And I hope I'm not talking out of school, but Nick was on the wrestling team when I was. Nick was from Cleveland Brush, but I know Nick's major didn't get him to focus into being a CEO for a not-for-profit organization, but he's done very well. But it speaks to us. One of the things, Roger, that I would say, and I always counsel young folks that are either looking to get into a career or start a career or looking to switch. Number one, find what's your passion. Too many times you're driven. It's easy to take a look at something that you're money driven or prestige or power, position. Those things don't bring you the joy. But if you find something that gives you that's your passion, that makes you happy, man, your life will be great. And, you know, even though I've had some tremendous positions and made some pretty good salaries and stuff, I have to say one of the biggest joys in my career is to come to that campus and to mentor and coach and really help these young kids at Ohio Wesleyan find the direction. And when you see those young kids that when you first meet them, they have no clue where they want to go, but at the end of their time, you look and you say, oh my gosh, you know, one of my mentees just recently got a huge job at the Hershey Company in Hershey, PA, and sent me a nice note. And I remember they were struggling, almost flunked out, but they found their passion, and that's what makes it happen. And Ted's, it's probably the same thing in sports or whatever you do. It's you got to be passionate. You got to love what you do and get up and be happy to do it every day. And that would be my advice to young folks.
And for me, I've obviously I got a little later start with playing professional baseball for 6 years, but every time I went into an interview, you know, their eyes popped up, definitely when it said Ohio Wesleyan. And then like what Mark said, you know, you're an athlete, and they love that because they know you're very competitive. Obviously in the real world, you hate to lose, and being an athlete, you hated to lose. I mean, you didn't want to step back. You didn't want to step behind anybody. You wanted to be out front and take the bull by the horns and go on and win that game and, you know, win the battle or whatever. So I think a lot of employees love the student athletes as far as hiring them. And the same story here. I was an economics major and ended up fortunately in the sporting goods world for 21 years and kind of left that. And now, thanks to Jim, I'm kidding, but I'm in the pharmaceutical genre right now in Blackstone Medical Services. So like you guys were interested, just to have a degree from Ohio Wesleyan and being an athlete, I think it does have an advantage over other candidates that go for the same job that you guys have available. And like Mark said, it kind of gives you a step up, and the guy that interviews you, the president or the CEO or the human resources, realize that you're going to give your best 2 steps as far as being very competitive, and you're going to make the company grow and make the company profitable and make things go. So I think that was a real positive from going to Ohio Wesleyan and also playing athletics.
Okay, so I'll give you guys kind of some rapid fire questions here, and I want you to kind of throw me the answers, okay? I'm a college scholar athlete at Ohio Wesleyan. I'm going into my senior year. Give me 3 things I need to work on in my senior year to get myself ready for graduation. We'll go Mark, Jimmy, and Scott in that order. Mark.
Well, obviously, the work that I do, you know, you got to get them ready to get a job. Now, the problem is if you're about ready to graduate and you haven't done the preparation work, you're in trouble. And that's why we're starting with freshmen. Actually, Wesleyan's got a program in the office where we call the Bishop Launch Program. And we're basically putting kids right through the grinder. Resume, we do mock interviews. We help them connect to the Ohio Wesleyan network. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about networking, but get them out there to talking to other Wesleyan grads in either in a geographic area that they're interested in or possibly in a field that they're interested in so that they can find opportunities. But really, it's no different than going to practice so you can play in the games. You gotta get through the practice session, which is what Jimmy and I do, and there's 12 of us, I think, alums who volunteer in that office, in addition to a staff of 4 or 5, which is way more than there was in that office. I think there was probably 1 in that office when you were there, Scott. There wasn't anybody in career services then, but Wesleyan's made a huge commitment to that program. And Roger, it's a matter of getting all those things in place, and hopefully by the time they're a senior, they're ready to go. And that's when we introduce them to the world outside and help them make the connections either in the graduate schools or oftentimes students want to take a gap year, getting them set up with a gap year opportunity, or actually going out and finding a job.
Okay, Jimmy, I've got that first job, and I now have worked for 4 or 5 years, and I want to go back and get my resume updated. I need some connections. What's my advice? What's your advice?
Network, network, network. Tap into people, primarily in the field that you'd be interested in. They're tremendous, and that's one of the great things about Ohio Wesleyan. We have a tremendous network of alums that are in a number of different careers. Reach out to them. Don't be afraid to reach out to them, and talk with them. Ask them what, people love to be asked to tell their opinion. They'll tell you what you need to do, but reach out to those who have had good careers, successful careers. Network with them. But I also have to underline what Mark said. You got to start early in the process. You don't wait until your junior year or senior year and then try to get an internship or start to prepare yourself. You got to do it early. You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan of attack on how you want to go after things. One of the biggest things that drives me crazy, you have to write well. You have to communicate well. Communication is critical. You have to be able to, when you walk in for an interview or you meet someone, look them in the eye, give them a firm handshake, and then, you got to ask and close. A lot of people talk, but they don't close. So you got to close and tell people what you want and tell them that you want that business. You really do.
Jimmy, I got to ask you a quick question here, okay? I know everybody says you got to network, got to connect. I don't know anyone in that field. So how do I find out who at Ohio Wesleyan's in that field?
Well,
what resources do we have? I mean, can I call Mark and say, hey, Mark, do you know anybody in environmental services? Or Jimmy, do you know anybody that's in the banking business or Wall Street? How do we find out who those people are?
Well, we've got a tremendous resource in our Career Connections group, and headed up under Megan Ellis. And if it were me, that would be one of the first places I go to find out. And then there are other outlets. Mark and I, and I think Ted's, if I'm not mistaken, you're Greek, but you've got some great Greek buddies that might have family or friends who are in those respective fields that you can reach out to. But it's all about people. Over 70% or 80%, Shippy, if I'm not mistaken, of the jobs that people get, they're because of connection. Someone knows someone. I think there's two things you have to have. You have to have, everyone talks about mentorship. Mentors open the door, but you also have to have sponsorship. Someone who will take you by the hand and pull you through the door to introduce you to those key people. So I always focus on not only just mentorship, but sponsorship. Who do I have? Who can I get you to? I can say, hey, look, I know Roger Ingalls. I'll help get you to Roger. So that's, that really is my, those are my thoughts. Start early.
Let me be a little bit more specific. Any Ohio Wesleyan graduate can go back into the Career Connection office. I'm working with 5 or 6 alums right now, including one poor fellow who because of COVID, lost his job at the age of 60. So, it's the whole reestablishing the process and getting back into that. And so as an Ohio Wesleyan graduate, I mean, you basically paid for career counseling for life. And the office has got tremendous resources to be able to not only to do what Jimmy's saying, to reach into the Ohio Wesleyan network, which is extensive, but also really to go back and get some of the basics done. I mean, so many people who are either choosing to change jobs or have lost a job for whatever reason because of COVID, they kind of, in some cases, you have to start over and redo some of the things that need to be done. and we'll work with them, both volunteers, and there's professional staff that can help them out. In some cases, they need some counseling because these are difficult changes that they've made. So with your tuition, when you paid it, you got free job counseling and career connection work for life. Most people don't know that.
Scott, what do you have to add?
I like the same thing about connections and communication. When I was in between careers, I reached out to a couple of Ohio Wesleyan alumni, Julie McMillan, and then Hannah Morgan, who's like a legend on LinkedIn. Just ask her for some advice, basically to update the resume. And Hannah Morgan sent me an email right back and said, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I did it. And next thing I know, I'm in the pharmaceutical business as far as jobs. But I'm starting to go through that now with my daughter, who's a senior at the University of Texas. And she's starting to network, and she did an internship this summer. And just like Jim said, I started on her as a freshman year. I was like, you got to do this, you got to do this. And she's like, Dad, come on, I'm only a freshman. I'm like, no. And now she's starting to reap the benefits. She wants to be a commissioner of a sports athletic conference. So obviously the SEC's here in Birmingham. I'm in Birmingham. So I made a couple calls, and when she graduates, she's going to do an internship in the SEC office. So it's just the connections and like you said, Jim, just go for it. I mean, don't be afraid. Mentorship and sponsorship. I guess I was her sponsorship to get her in the door. She interviewed for the position, and she was lucky enough to get an internship after she graduates at the SEC office. So will she end up at the SEC office? Nobody knows. But like you said, we all went different directions from our major, economics, pre-med for you guys. So just don't leave one door open on your major. You can look around and look at some other things that maybe relates a little bit to your major, but really connections and communication with the alumni at Ohio Wesleyan. And, you could be a phys ed teacher, but sometimes, hey, there's an athletic director opening at high school. Hey, let me call Nikolai at Southwestern Schools, or let's call Lee Rowlandson at Case Western. Let's see if there's an opening there at the athletic department there at the high school. So like you guys said, it's all about communication and connections, and definitely use your resources at Ohio Wesleyan like I did when I was in between careers, and it actually paid dividends. And use your resources and go from there.
Hey, Ted.
You got one of the best networkers on the screen right on top of you, Roger Ingles. And Roger, how many hundreds of maybe thousands of kids that you've helped with connections to get into athletic administration and coaching and that sort of thing, and that's all part of the network.
Hey, Ted.
Yes, sir.
SEC. Didn't we know anybody in the Big Ten? Come on, brother.
They weren't open at the time, Jimmy.
She doesn't like the cold weather.
All right, so we're going to get into a little word association here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to ask you a question. You get just a couple words to use, Jimmy. That's like that many. Okay? maybe that many at the most. But I'm going to ask you guys questions. We're going to go Jimmy, Scott, and Mark. We'll work our way around the screen here. Just answer the question, okay? Jimmy, favorite professor?
Jimmy Leopoulos, English, or speech.
Doc Garrity, economics.
John Chase, zoology.
Best food at the cafeteria?
None.
Yay.
Lasagna.
All right. I knew after a night at the West End, La Paza. See, there's your laugh for the night, Coach. I know you're turning red. Like
I love it.
I had to bust it out.
Okay, Mark.
Steaks on the charcoal with Isabel at the Fidel house. How about that?
Ooh.
Wow.
Jimmy, top band that played while you were in school at Ohio Wesleyan?
Frank Zappa, Mother's Invention.
I want to say, I think it was the County Crows played at Branch Rickey when before they were big.
I'd say it's tied between the Fifth Dimension and Sam and Dave.
Wow.
Favorite Major League Baseball team?
Oh, easy,
Oh,
easy.
that's simple, Roger. The guys who are going to win it all again, the Cubs.
I grew up with the Big Red Machine, but deep down, I hope the Indians because of Tito. He's one of my good friends, so I will have to say the Indians. And I see the 13 Disco in Mark's. He actually managed here last year in Birmingham. Mark, I didn't know if you knew that, but
No, it's clearly the Tribe. Look behind me. Viscal's 13, 5 fantasy camps with the Tribe. So that's my team. Has been since I was a little kid. When Larry Doby and Suitcase Simpson played for the Tribe. That's way back there. That's all. That's even before you, Roger, if that's possible.
Wow, that's way
That's way back.
way after Jimmy's time then, probably.
I will tell you a quick story, Mark. I saw the last game in the old stadium because Frank Thomas, the White Sox, were playing there the last game. And I got a hold of Frank, and he left me tickets right behind the home plate in, I think it's Cleveland Municipal Stadium.
Yeah,
The last game, I was there to watch the White Sox and the Indians.
interesting. My dad was at the 48 series. He was at the 54 series. He was at the last game. He was at that same last game, and he was at the first game at the new stadium. So that was pretty cool.
All right, I'm gonna give you 15 seconds, and I know Jimmy, you'll take it to 30. Mark will probably take it to a minute and a half. But if you guys could just sum up, what's Ohio Wesleyan mean to you?
Roger, it means everything to me. It gave me a great foundation, a great education. It gave me my wife, and it gave me some lifelong friendships that I've had and will have until I leave this earth. I love Ohio Wesleyan for what it's given me.
Same thing for me. Coming in there as an 18-year-old kid, I left there a 22-year-old man. That's the biggest thing. And then obviously was fortunate enough to do a lot of things, win a national championship, meet President Reagan, as a lot of people doesn't get to do, go to the White House and actually shake his hand and give him a Ohio Wesleyan t-shirt to put in the White House. So I think that was a big accomplishment. And every interview I do, I always say is the best 4 years of my life.
Hard to follow. All that those two said, I guess I got to really emphasize the lifetime friendships. And the young man who's below me on the screen, he and I have had a 50-year relationship, a friendship that grew out of the Fidel House. But it's funny, we get together 2 or 3 times a week in the spring to broadcast lacrosse games. Jimmy never played lacrosse, and the game has changed so much since I played that we have no idea what we're doing, but we have a great time. And we have fun together in all that we do. But to be able to come back together after being away from each other so long, now we did communicate a little bit during the times. And yes, you're right, Jimmy. I did try and lure you back to Wesleyan to come to work, but that's the special part for me. And it's many, many, many others who we have the same kind of feeling. When you can come back on campus, and it's almost like you haven't left. And it's because of the friendship. It's not because of the buildings or anything else. And it's also, Roger, I will say it's people like you. It's people who were there forever and ever and ever and left a huge mark on that institution. I have an infinite amount of respect for you and for what you've done. But you represent a lot of people there, the professors and administrators who've done so much for that school and so much for the students who benefit from it. So we thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Well, we're about out of time. I'm going to ask you guys to leave with one bit of advice for all these young men and young women that have graduated from Ohio Wesleyan, people who may be watching this show, if you can impart any one little piece of wisdom, what would it be? Jimmy?
Enjoy it, embrace it, love it every day. It's a blessing.
Scott?
Yeah, network, like we talked about, communication, and always be happy. And go for your goals. I mean, actually go for your goals, wherever it is. It might take a little extra time than what you expect, but actually go for it. And that's all I can say. And I think Ohio Wesleyan trains you to go for everything.
A couple things, Roger. Focus on the important things in life. Not get wrapped up in the details that don't make that much difference, and work hard to pick up what Scott said. Work hard on getting there. It's not easy to succeed in life. People say work smart, don't work hard. Well, that's not true. You got to work today. You got to work smart and hard to be successful. And if for some reason you decide where you're going isn't the right direction and you need some help, call us up at the Career Connection office, and we'll help you out. Seek help, and reach out, again, like Scott said, reach out to that network, because there's a lot of help out there.
Guys, great show. I loved having you here. And next week, I believe John tells us he's got Sean Rice lined up, Scott. And down the road, after harvest season's done, Mark Meyer, son of Richard Meyer, has agreed to come on the show. And we've got some other great alums lined up. And I think tonight was a great show. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. And they'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, guys.
Raj.